This is Jake Motory with Covenant Homes. Been a little bit since we've done one of these videos, but we're back and we're going to finish up wall assemblies today. So we are a construction company that focuses on high performance and sometimes passive house construction. So we have some unique requirements for our wall assemblies. One of them, it needs to be very airtight, but also very energy efficient by the way of very thick insulation in these walls. So let's look at our second option. Let's go over quickly just once again the requirements in our environment. We need these to be able to dry in both directions. The wall needs to be dry out to the inside and to the outside. Because we are classified as a mixed dry environment, ideally we need to have high permeance exterior sheathing, which is basically plywood. It's better than OSB, it's better than zip system from a permeance perspective. And we also need an interior air barrier. That's because we have almost double the cooling degree days, and exterior air barriers allow unwanted moisture to enter the walls during periods of heating, aka winter. All right, so let's move on. All right, so this is definitely a unique way of getting all these requirements. It's called a double stud wall, and there's multiple ways of doing it. But the ideal way of doing it, as detailed by Joe Stebrick and the Building Science Corporation, essentially we're going to build that interior wall the same way we always do it, whether that's with a 2x6 framing or 2x4 framing. But that interior wall is going to be our load-bearing wall for the roof. Now what we can do is on that interior wall, we're going to go ahead and sheathe it with plywood or OSB, but we're going to hang a second wall off of this interior load-bearing wall to the outside, to the exterior. So I have written down there we can use Larson trusses, which we'll see one of those in a second, or a wall truss, which is slightly different but essentially serves the same purpose. We're going to have 1 or 2 layers of sheathing. You can do either. And same as the other wall assembly we showed, there's going to be an interior air barrier, a service cavity, and then drywall. And then on the outside of that second wall, we're going to have essentially another service cavity or a rain screen, drainage plane, so that outside wall can dry out. Let's look at a couple examples. So here's a drawing essentially in this last picture here. This is the interior wall with sheathing on the exterior of it. It is actually right here in the middle of this wall. So you can see up at the top in this example, they have an extra wall, and they don't really show how this attaches to that interior wall. I'll show you that in a second. But essentially, they've got 1/2-inch ply at the top at whatever depth you want. So you can basically slide that exterior wall as far out as you want or as close to that interior wall as you want. So you can really modulate how much insulation thickness you have. All right, now let's move on to some examples, some real-world examples. Okay, so here on the right, these are Larson trusses. So essentially, you've got 2x2s, let me just go back. So here's that interior wall with this has OSB sheathing on the outside. And we're going to just hang these Larson trusses screwed into typically the framing on the inside, the studs. We're going to screw that into the interior wall. And this is actually going to hang outside of our structure. You can basically change your foundation stem wall or your slab on grade wall so it doesn't hang out, say, 12 inches from the exterior of it. But this is hanging off of the interior air load-bearing wall. So with this, these things here are called gussets. It essentially defines how thick this exterior wall is or how far apart these 2x2s are. So we've got several gussets for rigidity, and they actually put a layer of plywood on the other side of it. You don't need to do that. So let's go to this one here on the left. So this is kind of a modified version of the Larson truss on the right. So again, they have, this looks like 2x4s, maybe they're 2x2s. I'm not for certain on that. But in this example, they have plywood sheathing, 2x2s, 2x3s, whatever these are, separated by a gusset. And they probably have several of these. So essentially, this is screwed into the wall. At the bottom, they have a little ledger board that they're setting these on, so they're all set at the right height. But this one is nice because you can actually see they're starting to put some insulation on the exterior of this interior wall. So this is actually used in a lot of colder environments, not necessarily in ours, but we can. But you can achieve 12, 14, 16, however many inches of thickness you need to meet the energy modeling demands that you need. So this is definitely a neat way of doing it to achieve those really thick walls to meet Passive House standards. And it's just something cool to see that's not typically done here. We'll see if we can get a project going where we do a double stud wall with extremely thick insulation. So one thing I'll close out with is you may be asking, well, what's the advantage of this? Why do I need thick walls like that? It's all about thermal performance. The interior of the home will be very comfortable. Let's say you've got a temperature difference of 80 degrees from the inside of your house to the outside of the house. Probably not likely to happen here. Let's say the inside of your house you want at 70 and the outside of the house is 0. That's a 70-degree delta. Nobody likes getting up close to the exterior walls of their house and being able to feel that temperature difference through your wall assembly. So these examples we've given you will solve that problem. And additionally, the windows will need to be dealt with in such a way that we have very high-performing triple pane windows, thick glass, so that you won't feel the temperature difference by the window either. That's a big part of Passive House certification. One of the tenets is just interior comfort to the occupants. So if those are a couple of things that really appeal to you, give us a call. Let's discuss your next project and see if we can get some Passive House homes going in the area. All right, if y'all have any questions, shoot us a message on Covenant Homes on Facebook, on Instagram, or send us an email to info@covenant.homes, and we'll get back with you as soon as we can. All right, y'all have a blessed weekend. Thanks.